Even though he was spending all this time in the office, he found himself sitting sometimes in an empty operatory, just scrolling on his phone because the owner didn't want to share many patients with him. He was working more, but producing less, and that is a frustrating place to be. When he took over the practice, we came up with a plan of how we would communicate his vision to the team. We need to show up on time every day. We need to clock out for lunch. We need to get patients in, and we need to be seeing patients every hour of every day. In just 2 months of ownership, he has already made what he was making his entire previous year as an associate. When you drive to work tomorrow, ask yourself, how do you feel? Are you excited? Are you neutral? Are you dreading it? Hey everybody, welcome to the Lifestyle Practice Podcast. I'm Dr. Steve Graaff. I'm going to be your host today. Before we jump in, I wanted to share something that a dentist told me last week that made my day. He said, Steve, this is the first time in my life that I'm excited when I'm driving into work. And here's the crazy part. He's only been a practice owner for 2 months. In those 2 months, he's already made the same income that he made last year as an associate. Today, I wanted to tell you the story behind this dentist and help you take ownership over your career. So welcome back to our regular listeners. If you're new to the podcast, I'm glad you're here. We create this podcast every week, completely free of ads or distractions. Our goal is simple: to bring you practical insights that help you improve your practice and create a better balance in your life. This is also a glimpse into the kind of work we do in our one-on-one coaching. We help dentists design their ideal schedule and then build a practice around that so they can do what they love in life and still earn a fantastic income. Now, let's talk about this dentist and why you need to take ownership of where you're at right now. This dentist reached out to me about a year and a half ago. At the time, he was looking for a practice near his hometown. He sent over a couple prospectuses for me to review. We went through them together, pros and cons, but ultimately those opportunities weren't the right fit for him. So he made the smart decision to keep looking. Then, about 6 months ago, he reached out again and said, I think I've found the one. He sent over the information, I reviewed it. It was a fantastic practice. The demographics were great, fee schedule was strong, and there really weren't any dentists nearby, so it was just ideal scenario. But there were still some challenges. When we looked at the staff situation and the schedule during our due diligence period, we realized there really hadn't been much leadership in this practice in the past. Staff largely did whatever they wanted. There wasn't much focus on patient experience, scheduling, or even basic accountability. In fact, staff would just kind of come in late when they were ready in the morning. They wouldn't clock out during their long lunches, and there were large parts of the day where people were just sitting around. So we knew going in that there were going to be some difficulties, but we were encouraged that the practice was doing well despite all this. So this dentist, he saw the opportunity. When he took over the practice, we came up with a plan of how we would communicate his vision to the team and start shifting culture. One of the first things he did was sit down with the staff and then one-on-one and just have honest conversations. We need to show up on time every day. We need to clock out for lunch. We can't spend parts of the day sitting around and talking. We need to get patients in, and we need to be seeing patients every hour of every day. And for a team that wasn't used to operating that day, it was a stretch. And honestly, he was nervous to do this. He was in a very small town. If people quit, replacing them with competent, trained dental staff could be very hard to do. So it took courage to make those changes early. And there were definitely some emotional moments during those conversations, even a few tears with a couple team members, but he communicated well. He treated his team generously. He introduced incentives that helped everyone feel invested, and the team bought in. And once that happened, everything started to click quickly. Everyone was on the same page. This allowed them to do a lot of dentistry. And that's when he told me on our last call, for the first time in my life, I'm excited when I'm driving into work. That moment says a lot. Financially, the results have been incredible. In just 2 months of ownership, he has already made what he was making his entire previous year as an associate. Last year, when he was an associate, he was working 5 days a week, a couple Saturdays here and there as well. But even though he was spending all this time in the office, he found himself sitting sometimes in an empty operatory, just scrolling on his phone because the owner didn't want to share many patients with him. He was working more, but producing less. And that is a frustrating place to be. Fast forward today, he's working less. He has a full schedule. He's doing tons of dentistry, and he has a locked-in team that's behind him. So that's quite the shift, and it shows the power of ownership, what can happen in literally just a few months. For pre-owners and those of you that already have your practice, you may know this, but it's it's important to understand that these rewards, they come with some sacrifice. So to get to this point, this dentist spent a long time searching for practices, a year and a half. He was willing to move. He left a comfortable job. It wasn't a fantastic job, but it was surely very comfortable. And instead of showing up to work each day, he's now responsible for everything: the team, the schedule, the systems, everything. And none of these new responsibilities are easy. Leaving a comfortable job, taking on more debt, becoming responsible for an entire business. None of that's easy, but the rewards are outstanding. Financially, definitely, but also in terms of freedom. As an owner, you get to decide how your practice runs. You choose the type of dentistry you do. You choose the type of schedule you keep, the culture you want in your office. The level of ownership over your work is incredibly powerful. Recently, I finished reading a book by Nathaniel Branden called The Six Pillars of Self-Esteem. And in it was interesting. He described something he noticed while coaching people in their careers and relationships. People who feel stuck, people who are just unhappy about their situation in life, he noticed, they often start out sentences with, I wish, if only, someday, I hope. Those phrases remove responsibilities, right? You don't hear a company like Apple say, we hope to release a great product, or Marines don't say, I wish someday that we can do better. No, they act, they create results, and the same principle applies to us. If you're happy with your life now, that's fantastic. But if there's something you want to change, your income, your schedule, where you live, how your practice runs, you can't just wish that things were different or say someday they will be different. You have to act now. Story from my own practice that kind of highlights this principle. About year 3 or 4 into ownership, things were going really well for me. I was very busy. I had a great team. Income was very strong, but there was one thing that really bothered me, and it was dental insurance. I was a PPO practice, and that's great. You can do well in an insurance practice, but there was one plan that 35 to 40% of my patients had, and the fees were just terrible. Every day when I looked at the schedule, if there were a lot of patients with this insurance, I just kind of felt a little cruddy inside because I knew I was going to work hard, but I was kind of working for pennies on the dollar in a big sense. And so I had this problem, but I just kept putting off the decision to do something about it. I told myself the usual things, right? My practice could collapse if I drop this insurance and I lose 40% of my patients. I just wished it away. I wish I didn't have to deal with this. I put it off and said, eventually, my practice will be different and I'll be able to do something about this. Eventually, I decided, why am I tolerating something that has bothered me for so long, like literally 2 years, instead of just doing something about it? So I made the decision. I set a date. I talked with my team. I said, we're moving away from this insurance. We created a communication plan of how we were going to talk to patients word by word to help convey this message properly to our patients over the phone and in the chair. And then I just dropped the insurance. Something really interesting happened. My practice did not collapse. People weren't up in arms and mad at me. In fact, at the end of the year, I looked at all my numbers. I had done fewer procedures. I had worked fewer total days, but my total income and take home had increased. That was such an awesome feeling. It honestly felt like I was getting something for nothing. And that feeling was awesome. I felt like some magic trick had happened. I was getting something for nothing. I'm doing less, but making more. That experience reinforced a lesson I've seen again and again with dentists. And that is, nobody is coming to save you. That partner that you don't have isn't going to tell you what to do and make the changes for you. For sure, your hygienist and assistant aren't going to come and tell you what you need to do in your practice. Your competitor across the street isn't going to come over and give you a carry. Once you realize that no one else is going to fix your situation, something powerful happens. You take ownership over your situation and the problem. Once you own the problem, it's yours. You finally start taking action. If you're not sure what to do, that's okay. Hire someone who can tell you what to do, and then make a move. The longer you wait, the more you put it off, the harder it becomes. So here's a question for you. When you drive to work tomorrow, ask yourself, how do you feel? Are you excited? Are you neutral? Are you dreading it? Of course, no one is ecstatic to go to work every day. But if you're consistently dreading the drive to work, that feeling is telling you something. If every Sunday night you just get that feeling in your gut, it means that something in your practice or your career needs to change. It could be your schedule. Maybe you're not happy about your income. Your practice isn't getting enough patients. Maybe you have a staffing issue and you dread seeing your team that you have to manage. Whatever it is, that obstacle that's in your way is actually pointing your way to the solution. Make changes instead of wishing things were different. Because remember, nobody is coming to do it for you. So, you guys, thanks for listening in. If you don't have a practice yet, if you're listening to me and you know you want to practice, but you don't, be a stud like this dentist, take a risk, put in the work, and become an owner. If you have a practice and you're not completely satisfied with it, if you don't love it and you're not excited about your work, that means you need to make some changes. So take greater ownership over your situation and do something about it. If you do, maybe you'll even enjoy your drive into the office. If you need help with any of these steps, making the change, understanding what you need to change, finding a practice, that's what we'd help with. Email us at Steve, Matt, or Derek at thelifestylepractice.com. We'll talk to you next week.